It is Wednesday night. You know what that means. You're live with us here on Wrestling Inc. after AEW Dynamite to talk all the things going on here in the wrestling world. I am Justin LaBar, coming from Pittsburgh, PA. Up north of the border in Toronto, he is former WWE referee of over 20 years, Mr. Jimmy Korderas. And down south in beautiful Puerto Rico, it is our resident NYC Demon Diva, Issa. Issa, how are you tonight?
I'm okay. I'm a little sad over the news that have hit us since last night. It's been tough to kind of like process everything that we're finding out as it goes. Um, Wrestling has always been a distraction for me when things get rough. So I'm glad that we had somewhat of a distraction right.
Yes, and we will touch on the news story with a little more detail and respect in just a moment. Jimmy, that aside, from the wrestling community in mourning today, how else is everything for you?
Well, other than that, I guess it's good. And like Issa said, sometimes, we are a family in this business, like a family outside our relation family, you know what I mean? And it is tough when we lose a member of our family. But again, that's when we rely on the other members of that family to help us get it through it. And that's what we were hoping for tonight on the show.
Yeah, and a lot of respect paid tonight on the show, and a lot of respect around the wrestling community. Of course, if you are not aware, haven't heard the full story, here is the sad news that transpired yesterday, Tuesday evening. Jay Briscoe, who is a veteran pro wrestler, one half of the Briscoe brothers veteran Ring of Honor team, was driving in Laurel, Delaware, and he had his two daughters, 12 and 9 years old, in the car. And according to the Delaware State Police Department, it seemed a vehicle oncoming traffic crossed over the line, hitting Jay Briscoe and his family's vehicle head on. Jay Briscoe tragically dying in this car accident, his as well as the driver of the other vehicle. His daughters did survive the crash. I believe both were in the hospital, as I believe as the reports are, undergoing different operations and medical attention. So obviously prayers for them as well. Just really tragic. I mean, the other driver, 27 years old, Jay Briscoe, I believe 38 years old. Just tragic. And this happened. And as you guys are just noting, the wrestling community, you hate for it to take something like this to bring what can sometimes be a very divisive and argumentative community, to bring them together like this. But everybody, whether they are people that share the ring with Jay Briscoe, whether they never had a match with Jay Briscoe or barely knew him, everybody stepping up and recognizing the need to support each other and support each other's families and what have you. Even NXT, Issa, live on the air last night. And mind you, Jay, the Briscoes were never in NXT. They were never, WWE, but NXT called an audible with what they were going to do content-wise, and addressed the passing and sent their prayers and condolences. So this has just been really an emotional 24 hours. And Issa, I know, did you had the chance to have some interactions and experiences with the man?
I did. I actually got a chance to interview them on SummerSlam weekend, and I got a chance to have a casual, one of those off-the-record conversations with them backstage at the Ric Flair final match. And he was nothing but very kind to me. I shared the story earlier on my stream about how I was running around StarCast and I was representing Lucha Libre Online as media, but I'm a one-woman show. I don't have a cameraman, so I'm doing everything on my own. And I run into them, and I'm like, I would love to interview you guys when you don't have fans, waiting to meet you. And then I'm stumbling on my words, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm so nervous. And he said to me, he's like, why are you nervous? You're just interviewing the two of us. We're nobodies. And I was like, I thought it was so great that he's humbling himself just to like get my nerves to come down. And I was like, oh no, you're somebody. And that just goes to show you like the kind of guy that he was, where he's just like, yeah, we're nobodies. Don't worry, we'll give you an interview. And he was so casual about it, so cool. Always the few interactions that I did have with the Briscoes, very kind and gentle, both of them. So it's so sad, but I did love that NXT mentioned it. I love that there was a tweet by Triple H, a tweet by Shawn Michaels. Like Jimmy was mentioning, we come together during this shouldn't be what brings us together, but there's nothing better than just seeing that all the kayfabe and the fourth wall and the forbidden doors, none of that exists when it's this tragic. And I did appreciate WWE doing that.
Yeah, Jimmy, so many people noting how much of a family man he was, and again, that makes it all the, you know, and then you hear that, and then you hear that his daughter's in the car. I don't know what else is there to say about this.
No, it's just it is sad. It is tragic, and like Issa said, it is one of the sad things is like we are a family, but at the same time, bringing us all together, something like this, it's sad that this has to happen to bring us all together in this fashion. But at the same time, like you said, he was a great guy. I got to meet him here in Toronto during Border Wars, and I refereed a match on that show, and it wasn't their match, unfortunately, but I got a nice warm reception from the hometown crowd. This was after my stint in WWE. So, and when I got to the back, Jay kind of, came over and said, "Hey, that was a hell of a pop you got, kid." And I was like, he was so kind and so, he didn't mean it as a joke. He meant it. You know what I mean? It was like, yeah. He was nothing but kind to me, and he will be sadly missed.
I love that you said that, Jimmy, because the way that I was introduced to the Briscoes, it was funny. It was a clip that Nick Hosman played for me during one of our Wrestling Inc. dailies podcasts that we used to do. And I saw a promo and I was immediately captivated, right? Like, he showed me a promo that they did on Twitter. He was like, "You got to watch this. Like, these guys are crazy." And that's the reason why I was nervous when I approached them, because of the way they come off on their promo. So just to see this nice, warm, kind guy be like, "Oh, don't be nervous, it's gonna be okay." When you watch his promos and he's so intense and you're like, should I even walk up to them? Should I not? That's the kind of guy that Jay Briscoe was. That's the best way to describe him, because I love the Briscoes promos. Every time they would tweet, I think I would grab a snack and just hit play and watch those videos. But that is not how he really was if you ever had a chance to interact with him. And that's what made him so great.
Yeah, so again, rest in peace to him, and again, thoughts again continue with his family, who are obviously dealing with this horrible tragedy, and again, his daughters who are still seeking critical medical attention. So, the best to them.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we'll try to be as appropriate as we can. We'll try to switch gears and and as what the Dynamite was supposed to be tonight is a little bit of a tribute to him, and just getting back and trying to entertain. Before we get into AEW Dynamite, just a big reminder, please, if you could, if you're a fan of the podcast, hit the like button, whether you're on YouTube now or you're on a different platform, or if you're checking out the audio after the fact. A like button, but really, especially if you leave a comment or a review, whether it's Apple Podcasts or if it's the YouTube, if you can leave a comment, leave a review, leave 5 stars, that does a wonderful thing. For the more of those, helps get us higher ranking. We start showing up in more people's searches, more people find it, more sponsors, et cetera, et cetera. A lot of exciting things going on behind the scenes right now with the podcast. We're looking for a big 2023. I don't want to be too cryptic, but we're excited. But in that, they just asked us, make sure we remind you guys, stay engaged, please. Send us the comments, send us the likes and reviews. We really would appreciate that. If you are loving this, whether it's this one, Friday nights, Tuesday nights, Monday nights, all of them, we're pretty much every night of the week at this point. So please show some love to the Wrestling Inc. podcast. All right, let's go ahead and jump into AEW Dynamite, coming from Fresno, California tonight. And we kick it off with the All-Atlantic champion, Orange Cassidy, going up against Jay Lethal. A lot of ballyhoo going on here, Jimmy, as we have Satnam Singh and Sanjay Dutt and Double J Jeff Jarrett. They've bought tickets. They're sitting front row. They can't touch and do anything to Orange Cassidy. Otherwise, Sanjay is going to get fired. But then just after that, Danhausen's an usher. He's got tickets. He's got seats to clear out, because here comes the best friend. So we got kind of a whole hoopla going on in the front row. Meanwhile, Orange Cassidy is going to get the win with the orange punch. And after the match, both Double J and Satnam Singh trying to get their hands on the opposition, but Sanjay continues to stop them. What did you make of this opener? Again, a lot of moving parts happening here.
That was the problem I had with it. Like you said, a lot of moving parts. And I get the story being told that if there is interference from anybody on Sanjay's side, that Sanjay will get fired. So I get that story being told, but there was too much of that taking away from what was actually not a bad match between the two, with Jay Lethal and Orange Cassidy, despite the fact that, I get the gimmick, but at the same time, not my cup of tea, but I can get it. I understand it. I get the thing. And again, I think it took a little bit away from the match they were having, but after the match was over, after, Orange Cassidy gets the win, We needed more Gaga afterwards. What I don't understand is the match is over. So why does the referee have to be there to say, hey, don't do it? Because if you do it, you get... There's no interference after a match, is there? Mm-hmm. You can't cost anybody a match after the match. So there, some stuff that didn't make sense afterwards. It looked like just some extracurricular activities just for the sake of having extracurricular activities.
Issa, is this story vibing with you?
Not at all. Not at all. No. I like the match. I thought that the match was great. I think I share this with you guys every week, in which I don't like. I'm not. It's not that I don't like. I don't get. It's not for me, the Orange Cassidy gimmick. But when I see him in the ring, I appreciate his work, and I'm never going to complain about getting a Jay Lethal match. That being said, I didn't feel like anything here made sense. And to Jimmy's point, there was so much going on that I feel like I pay no attention to the match, where it's just like you're trying to keep track of everything going on, all the people on the outside. So it was quite distracting and questionable for an opener, honestly, because there was just a lot going on. I thought they should have opened with something just more, normal. I guess I should say.
Yeah, and in hindsight, the next match we're going to get in a few minutes here with the tag match, I thought that might have made a more sense of an opener, especially given how valuable that opening segment is to the audience. And so I would have thought to have the Young Bucks and but we'll get to
I actually would have preferred that also, because they did the graphic and that was it. There was no mention of the tragedy until the end of the show, which I was wondering how we were going to approach that with Warner. There was rumors that Warner didn't want the Briscoes in the network. So I was curious about how they were going to handle that. So I think a tag team match to open the show would have been a nice sort of way to pay respect without having to say it.
Well, again, when we'll get to that match, especially in that tag match, there was some tribute spots and commentary even, I think, noted it to the Briscoes. So, very, very fair point. Yeah, first off on this opening, the one thing I do like, Orange Cassidy, it's such a unique character, nothing quite like him before when he first came on the scene. And I do think he's actually evolving a little bit in little things in terms of you can't stay the way he was forever. You have to evolve, and that's with all characters. Eventually Kane has to talk. Eventually somebody has to. Funny characters or weird characters always have to grow. And I think there's actually little things in Orange Cassidy I like that are evolving to try to help give him a longer shelf life for his Orange Cassidy career. That said, I agree with everything that was said. Weird placement with this match. To Jimmy's point of is it interference after the match is done. I kind of look at this, and again, it's not everybody's in a group pretty much. I thought when Double J came over to AEW, it was a little bit of a surprise, right? It wasn't like, it wasn't like that was like some big watch of Double J's got to be showing up. No, it was kind of a surprise, huge credibility. He's wrestled everywhere. He's done a lot of things. And I thought that had some really good momentum his first few weeks, but I feel like he's already kind of fallen. He's just in there. He's the vet in another group. I don't know if it's because I don't find Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends the most threatening opposition to him. I don't know if that's my problem now or what, but I kind of feel like you have Double J, Jeff Jarrett. If you're going to have him out on TV every week on Dynamite, let's get some more use out of the miles that he has acquired.
And that being said, on that point, after the match, we had all this aftermath, and the heels didn't get their heat back despite the babyface winning. And that was the opportunity for the heels to get their heat back. And that didn't happen.
Good point.
Yeah, I think if they could have finally got the ref really distracted and Double J could have snuck in one guitar shot and then booked it out of there.
Right.
Right.
Well, they haven't given us the pencil, so that's the best we have to do for our booking here.
Maybe the guitar budget is low here, so we can't be breaking them every week. Maybe we can only break so many guitars a month.
I mean, the Khan's got more money. The Khan's got more money than Vince. I think they can afford a few more gimmick guitars.
Listen, they're focused on the NFL playoffs right now. Okay, not on breaking guitars.
Well, a fantastic win last week. I have a feeling though, as they run into Kansas City this week, that they won't have to worry about the playoffs for too much longer.
Agreed.
We'll see. We'll see. But Trevor Lawrence is pretty fun to watch. Got to give him that. All right, up next, we do get the tag team action. This is where we all kind of agree. Maybe this would have been a more appropriate starter for the show for lots of reasons, but it is Top Flight up against the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks, fun little fact that the commentary dropped, this is the first time they've had a tag team match. They've, of course, been in these trio six-man matches for weeks. The first tag match they've had since Fyter Fest in the summertime when they lost the titles to Swerve and to Keith Lee. So this is
and it makes no sense. It made no sense to put him in a tag match after they just won the trios title. Absolutely zero sense.
You read my mind there. You say you read my mind.
Well, I guess the AEW's justification was we're going to put out this credible tag team, and oh, by the way, it's an attraction because you haven't seen them just as a tag team in so long, and they lost. Top Flight gets the upset victory. I guess that best of 7 just took it out of the books. They just couldn't hang.
Yeah, it couldn't last with the dreaded roll up at the end after hitting all of those big maneuvers. What a maneuver! You know, it's the other thing too. It's not the only time the dreaded roll up worked again tonight. And look, I get it. It's a Young Bucks style, but having all 4 men in the ring for such a long time in a tag match, just make it a tornado match and get it over with. You know what I mean?
I've said it before. I would have no problem if Tony Khan loves the old ECW. Just say you're adopting that rule where there is no such thing as a DQ or a count out. So therefore, refs every match essentially only need to just count pins or watch for submissions. Just make that the thing, and then all of a sudden that kind of like stops a lot of the critiquing of that guy was, because then it's like, well, that's just the rules of the AEW universe.
Right.
Yeah.
Lisa, I mean, what do you expect now? That's a big deal. Top Flight gets a win on the Young Bucks.
I thought Top Flight looked great, and it was definitely an offset. I just felt like I liked the way that they booked last week's show, and I felt there was a lot of lack of follow-up to what they presented last week, and the things that they kind of followed up on, they failed because, like I said, putting the Young Bucks here, I think the Young Bucks putting over Top Flight is incredible, and it's a great move on them, and the match was great, and he had a couple of spots in honor of the Briscoes. I loved all of that. Them losing in a tag match after winning the trios titles made no sense. But to your point, Justin LaBar, when they said, that best of 7 was that taking it out of them, I thought it was a nice save by commentary to like still keep the Bucks looking strong, because yes, we just saw them go through hell and back, but I like that they're putting over young guys, and I thought that it was a legit surprising win for Top Flight, but I just don't think storyline wise none of this made sense.
Yeah, I wonder. I wonder if when Tony Khan makes the final call, when he signs off on the Bucks losing to Top Flight, does he actually say to the Bucks and to Top Flight? Does he actually say to them and to commentary, part of the justification we're going to give is the Bucks are worn out because it's best of 7, or did he just say, oh, we want to start pushing Top Flight? Top Flight, you're gonna get a close roll of victory, and then his commentary sitting there scratching their heads just like we are, and is it good on Excalibur to be able to pull that one out and kind of gives him? I'm really curious where the motivations, how much motivations are being communicated in terms of what like we're supposed to be taking away from this, But big win though for Top Flight, so we'll see.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can stay healthy, they're an extremely entertaining tag team. It's just been I feel like the one has had a hard time staying healthy.
And the other thing too is, yes, it is a big win for them, but another problem that we ran into more than in this match tonight was the crowd was kind of divided on who they wanted to cheer for.
Yes,
and that's a little bit of a problem. I get it in the occasional match, but this seems to be an ongoing issue with AEW's booking lately.
Larry saying in the chat room, AEW is glorified independent wrestling league with money. Well, I mean, I guess it's what your definition of independent wrestling is.
Right.
If you're defining independent wrestling as a certain style, maybe. If I mean, I don't really think when you're backed by a billionaire and you have the distribution of TV that AEW does, I don't think that classifies as independent anymore. I think you're just now just the way we look at WWE as a major or as a corporation or as a company. I mean, if AEW is that, but yes, maybe their style lends themselves to what we have just kind of
associate with.
Exactly, associate as an indie style, I guess. So
I guess about lack of storytelling, I guess, in the match is what he's referring to, maybe.
Yeah. Up next, we get the Gun Club. They're out there in the ring, jaw jacking, and then the Acclaimed interrupts them. Gun Club tries to prevent Max Caster from rapping, but that's not going to stop Max Caster. They get the music to restart, and they get the Gun Club's music to cut. Max does his rap, which is always a big part of the show, a big part of the live event experience. They get in the ring, and they kind of have like a little scuffle for a minute, very light scuffle is really how I'd call this. And then Billy Gunn gets in there. Daddy Ass gets in and pulls apart all of them. To his kids, he's like, I'm sick and tired of you spoiled, entitled kids. And then turns to the Acclaim and says, hey, you're tag champs. Start to act like it. And then proceeds to cut more of a promo.
He was always such a serious guy. I mean,
right. The guy named Daddy Ass. And then he says to his kids, I got for next week, I got 2 words for you: family therapy. Issa, is this the start of like some long-winded like Daniel Bryan Kane like therapy vignettes we're going to be getting here?
Oh God, I hope not. I hope not. I'm not. I mean, I like the idea of Daddy Ass being the therapist here, but for the Ass Boys, not for the Acclaim. He's been all along in their shenanigans, and he's been enjoying it, and he's having the time of his life. And then all of a sudden tonight, hey, listen, we're all having a hard time. Sometimes we all have bad days. I'm gonna assume that's what was happening here. Maybe he was moody, because it doesn't make sense that he wants to like make them behave. But I do think it makes sense for him to try to work things out with the Gun Club. And I've been liking the Gun Club recently, so I'm excited to see where this goes. Just don't make it go into 10 vignettes about them going to therapy. I don't need that. A music video, yes. Vignettes, no.
Dr. Shelby, as the chat room is reminding, was the therapist.
Yes.
Right.
Got the breakthrough to Kane and Bryan.
Right.
Jimmy, what did you make of it? This was a very like they made a point to give this the little bit of time they did, but it was a little awkward at times. I don't know.
It did feel a little awkward, and it's because now you're thinking about Billy Gunn. He pulled his kids off and he chastised them, but he also chastised the guys he's with, who are the Acclaim. So now the seed has been planted. Could we see down the road a tag team title match between the Gun Club and the Acclaimed, and Billy pulling the ultimate swerve and siding with family?
And that would be a bold decision for them to do, because the Acclaimed is one of their most over acts. Obviously, I'm sure, I don't know it for a fact, but I'd have to imagine if Tony Khan revealed the merch numbers, I got to think the Scissor Me Daddy Ass shirts are the top 3, definitely top 5. So that'd be a bold choice if they think it's ran its course and that they would depart from that. But yeah, it seems like they have a plan. It seems like, because they made a point to want to do this to set up whatever they're going to do next week. Whether or not they actually have that plan, we'll find out. Thanks to Chad W, who sent $1 super chat. You forgot to include his comments, Chad. If you want to send it in here, I'll try to find it and keep an eye out for it. And Daniel Price also in the chat room kind of give an explanation of what he thinks Larry was saying. Saying Larry means Khan books with a mentality like he's trying to appeal to indie marks while throwing crap at the wall and hoping that it sticks. And it's usually scatterbrain booking.
Well, I will say this to Daniel Price. It does seem that he does book to a specific audience as opposed to trying to book to a grander audience. Yes, you can have matches that appeal to that audience you're reaching right now, but the idea is to grow your audience, and to grow your audience, you have to start appealing to those outside that group. Yeah,
I mean, year-over-year numbers should be the biggest thing you're watching. Like, if you're not top, if you don't have more this at the time you did last year, that has to be the wake-up call. That's what I think he's got to keep an eye on, is growth or lack thereof. Is that, okay, what good is it if you have the same 900,000 people that like this style that you crave, but if you're not getting any new eyes on it? And again, as we say that, and as we just started to guess what this Daddy Ass family therapy thing could be, and I use a WWE sports entertainment reference from a Dr. Shelby there. Maybe this is a slice of that pie of, let's try to do some things that would be more on the sports entertainment side and see if it, and use a veteran face and name like Billy. Who knows? So we'll see. The year is early here in 2023, but we'll see what kind of stuff AEW does. But I think year over year is absolutely what they need to be looking at. And to Jimmy's point, and I guess to Larry's point to an extent, not just book to the same people over and over. Trying to see if there's any other chat that we were going to pull up here. I don't think so. All right. Guys, it's very busy. Again, chat room, love it. Keep
Yes.
firing it. We love the engagement, love all that. Again, if you missed the plea earlier, please hit that like button. Especially hit the 5-star and the review. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you are. You can just take just a second out and just do that. That'll be really great for the podcast as we are continuing to grow and expand, which is awesome. We get Renee backstage with Hangman Adam Page. Yeah, this so this was kind of like I guess the underlying tone was like there was kind of like that there's this maybe this mutual respect that's kind of lying there between Page and
is that what you got out of it? Because I'm pretty sure Page is trying to steal Renee's husband. That's the underlying tone I got out of that.
It was kind of like, hey, could you send him this note? Never mind.
Yeah. He was like, hey, Renee, can you tell Mox to check his Snapchat, please?
Wow.
Issa. Is Hangman sliding into Mox's DMs?
Oh, 1000%. He's been in the DMs. He's been in those DMs. That's. Listen, I thought this was very awkward because it wasn't even like an interview. It was they advertised it as Hangman talks with Renee. And that's literally what it was. And then they pretended that the talk ended, but then it kept going. And listen, you guys know I always bring up a little bit of fashion here. Renee, my girl, you failed me. I'm sorry. I saw her outfit today, and I thought of my grandma's old couch. The only thing missing from it was the plastic. I didn't like the outfit. And Paige and Mox, possible live sex celebration when they make up. I don't know.
Jimmy, are you here for the long-term mutual respect tones that were there?
Well, I kind of felt that there was this is a situation where maybe Mox sees this backstage interview segment and it kind of turns it into a hey, why are you hitting on my wife kind of thing.
Oh no, that's not what. And I just hope that at all.
No, hopefully not, but. I didn't know what to make of it. It just felt awkward. It didn't feel like that. It didn't entice me to want to see a rematch. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If there was any thought that, we're going to get another brutal fight out of these guys, that did not seem, I did not walk away from this thinking that's, if anything, I guess I'm waiting for the oddball tag team.
Again, and it goes back to that thing I said earlier. Who does the crowd want to cheer and get behind, and who do they want to see get their butts kicked? And if Hangman was acting nice to Renee and says, "Hey, is John okay? Hey, here's a message for him when you get home. Next time I see him, it's going to be worse." And
that would have been good.
Anything, to fire up the troops, so to speak.
Yeah, it should be worth noted that when Renee kind of asked Hangman what is next, he was very coy and vague, but he did say maybe about mending some fences. So him and Bucks and Omega.
He did allude that he has some relationships to men, within AEW. I like that. I like that tease.
Yeah, and again, to what I just said a second ago about with more, maybe let's just get away from it just having to be 5-star matches and let's dive into some characters, some layers, some weaknesses, some complications. If that's, if so, again, while the segment was weird, it's weird. I'm not going to trash it because this is again starting things that can lead to other things that then eventually translate into the ring. So, watch it if you like to watch it.
Translating to something.
Watch it if you like to watch it. You get whatever, Issa's getting some erotica vibes. Everybody's got their own different kind of.
What was that? Lost in translation, is it?
Yeah. Pronouns pal says Hangman gonna make it right with CM Punk and muffins.
Tremendous.
That's good. That's really good. All right. Up next, we get Jake Hager and his hat, and the JAS heading to the ring as it's going to be Hager versus Ricky Starks. Jericho's on commentary. Kind of routine here. Starks and Hangman, nice contrast in styles and looks. Nothing too long and complicated here. Basically, JAS trying to use the numbers game That fails ultimately, though, as Starks is able to hit the spear and get the win, and then he books it over the barricade and out the arena with JAS chasing him. And they did set up later in a promo with Jericho. This is going to continue with a tag. I think Daniel Garcia has a singles match on Friday on Rampage, and then there's going to be a tag match next week of Jericho and either Garcia or Sammy versus Action Andretti and Ricky Starks. I think Ricky Starks, Jimmy, this kind of feels like, even dating back to where he had his MJF promo and match, and of course he lost it. Nobody expected him to win. That definitely elevated him. The promo certainly got a new respect, I would say, for him from the audience. But it feels like he's a guy that with this long trek until we get the next pay-per-view, they're trying to keep momentum. They're trying to keep him featured. But I'm wondering, if they'll be able to sustain it until we get to a pay-per-view when he has his next real, potentially meaningful match.
Right. That's the big question. Can they sustain this momentum? And he is gaining momentum. That is for sure. And, and that's a lot of it thanks to Jericho and the JAS. And they're doing it right, at least in this situation, I think, to get him over and also have him go over. Because, we've said it here how many times before, you can get over without going over. But at some point, you do have to go over to elevate to that next level. And that's what's happening with him right now. But it's just a matter of how long can they sustain this before he gets that opportunity to be in that position where maybe he does face an MJF for the World Heavyweight Championship. But that's going to happen after the Bryan Danielson situation.
Right. Issa, are you still feeling absolute Ricky Starks?
Yes, I feel absolute. I love the spear that he hit on Hager tonight. And I'm not a big fan of the smaller guy doing the spear, especially on a bigger guy.
Same.
The camera angle and the way that he came at Hager, it was probably the first time ever I bought a spear finishing, from the size differences here. I've always liked the spear coming for the bigger guy. But I will say that was a 10 out of 10 spears. I didn't like that finisher for him. I liked it a lot tonight. I love him running into the crowd. I think he knows that he's a very organic babyface. People want to cheer for him, and he's knowing this, and that's what's going to keep that momentum going. If he takes advantage of that connection that he's got with the crowd, he's doing all the right things right now. It's a matter of how long do we keep it going. Let him work his way back up. He already fought MJF. We already moved on from that. He needs to go to the back of the line, literally speaking. So let him, work his way back up. I'm happy with how they're booking Ricky Starks.
Yeah, I mean, look, AEW is starting to develop an interesting line of baby faces that are going to be knocking on MJF's door. Obviously, Bryan Danielson right now. Adam Cole came back last week. We didn't see him tonight. Ricky Starks is of course
not. Why would we follow up with anything with it last week? Justin LaBar, come on.
And I'm so glad you said that. I am a stickler with the spear. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have to be careful because I have a Canadian here in the room. And another Canadian did a foreword in his book. I'll even admit when Edge started doing the spear way back when in his singles career, I wasn't thrilled by it because I'm like, he's a big guy in life, but in pro wrestling, he's not the build that I want to see doing a spear. And so I always had to get used to guys in the transition of guys not built like Goldberg or built like, doing spears. I'm real picky with him. Like I love the way Bobby Lashley.
Bobby Lashley has a great spear.
Yeah.
How he rolls forward.
Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying, but in the case of Edge, I have to defend my boy here.
So go ahead.
He did it with a lot of oomph. He put everything into it, and it looked like he was throwing his everything into it, which at least made it work. You know what I mean? As he got a little bit more fuller. I'll say this for Edge too. The facials and the whatever in the corners he'd be doing the gear to pump it up. Good. The intensity, yes.
The intensity.
I wish they could have Roman Reigns' intensity when they do the spear, but they'll get there someday.
I was waiting for that to come. I once told Rhino that he has a terrible spear, and this was his response.
Spencer Slade beat Rhino, and Rhino scored the ball! Rhino just scored LaBar almost out of his shoes!
Almost out of the shoes, almost out of your existence. That was a heck of a spear you took.
We should play that every time we get a super chat,
Never criticize a spear again.
There you go.
Never criticize. No, that's It ain't fake.
How did you feel afterwards?
No, I legit. There's a minute. I had to gasp for air a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's not, and that's not saying like Rhino, like it's not saying Rhino tried to hurt me or do anything, whatever. He's just a big guy.
Big
and as
guy.
I said to somebody, I'm like, there's no avoiding. He has to hit me. He has to touch me. There's no avoiding a guy that big moving that quick in that space.
That's what she said.
Oh, man.
You know, we're in an 18 by 18 ring. He's coming at me fast. There's just no avoiding.
Yeah.
The poor thing.
I know sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes there is occasions where sometimes the talent forgets that managers, seconds to the ring, referees, well, at least some referees aren't in-ring talents.
Right.
You know what I mean? And somebody should have told Vader that when he headbutted me and chipped my tooth. But anyways.
Oh, you never told that story before. Go ahead.
Well, it was, I think it was his television debut after the Rumble, and he was wrestling Savio Vega. And he does something.
Savio.
He throws Savio out of the ring, and then, you know, I get in his face, and he grabs me and he headbutts me. And he's hanging on. When I had hair back then, and he's hanging onto my hair. He won't let me go down, and he headbutts me a second time, and I felt it. And I went, "You got to be kidding me!" And he shoots me out of the ring over where Savio is. And Savio goes, "Are you okay?" Because I guess he could see the screen from where he was. And I said, "No." He says, well, and he put his arm around me. He just said, "Stay here, brother." But yeah, right there. It's fixed now, but yeah.
That's so crazy. You know what's crazy is that I remember that it was 96.
Yeah,
because you're right. I think because I remember Vader coming in. I was always a WWE or WWF guy or kid or whatever, but I knew, I knew all the things going on. I had seen Vader. He's so like, you don't forget seeing Vader on another wrestling show. And so him coming over to WWF, I thought was the biggest deal. And I remember his first match after Rumble being Savio. That's
yeah. And the guy who was starting to lose his hair in the back. Yeah. But still had the sides where he could hang on to.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Shout out to Savio Vega, one of my favorites.
Good dude. I love
He's
Savio.
the best.
Shout out to Savio.
Theo Savio.
I'd love to see. I'd love to see Savio Vega at the Raw 30 next week.
That'd be cool.
That'd be fun.
Right? He's busy with IWA here, though.
That's awesome. An Issa and Savio podcast. That'd be fun.
Oh yeah.
That would be fun. I'm gonna go approach him.
There you
Make
go.
that happen.
I'm gonna be like, Theo Savio, I have an idea. Justin LaBar pitched it.
I've never met Savio. I don't think he's one I'd love to meet. He's somebody.
Really good guy. Really good guy. Awesome.
All right. Next up, maybe match the night. Bryan Danielson, of course, has continued. Maybe. Maybe. Guys know what they're doing, kind of.
Yeah.
Bryan Danielson in his quest to get to MJF, he's got to continue taking on these opponents week after week, taking on Bandido. And this was a wrestling match. You had some technical wrestling, you had some hard hitting, tremendous showing of core strength, drama. Is he going to get to the rope? People actually bought some hook and lines there of wondering, oh my God, is Bandido going to actually get this one on Bryan Danielson? And I'll also say this: we criticize WWE for doing this, and I'm glad that AEW doesn't. WWE, as we always joke about, Jimmy, on Monday nights, you know when commercials coming. It's like they get to like this pit stop part of the match. At one point, AEW tosses the picture-in-picture. The crowd is on their feet, fever pitch. Right as they toss the picture-in-picture, somebody's jumping on the top rope to do a springboard. I'm like, what is going on? Go back to the match.
Yeah.
So I mean, they really, the intensity, they kept it going here. Finally, ultimately though, Bryan is going to get the wins. He's going to get the win after hitting the flying knee. Jimmy, the crowd though, a little. I mean, ultimately still. The men shakes hands. There was a Ring of Honor kind of code of honor thing. Bryan at the end, but there was a portion of the time where they were firmly more behind Bandido than they were Bryan.
Yeah, it came across on TV that way. That's for darn sure. And there again, as much as I enjoyed this match, again, I'm thinking of it from a wrestling business standpoint, where you have two sides of the coin facing each other in the ring. And next week we're going to get that, which we'll talk about. after this. But during this match, again, the crowd seemed divided, and at some points looked like they were more on the side of Bandido. And like you said, going into this match, I thought to myself, well, obviously Bryan Danielson is going to win because that's the story leading to him versus MJF eventually down the road in the 1 hour Iron Man match. But at the same time, there were a couple of times in the match where they had me where I said, ooh, I thought that could have been it.
Yeah, Issa, this again, it's kind of predictable. Brian's going to win, but they're certainly making the most of him out there.
Yeah, they're definitely making the most out of it. And he just made Bandido look like $1 million, and the crowd being so behind Bandido. I feel like Bandido walked out like the winner here, even though he took that pin. He looked incredible. The entire crowd is behind him. If you're a casual viewer, flipping channels, you're going to see Daniel Bryan. You might remember him. You're going to stop. Bandido made an impression on you tonight. I love the bilingual crowd. I was here for it. I heard all the chants pop for that. Bryan, every time he comes out in AEW television, looks younger, more refreshed, and keeps putting on more incredible matches. You just watched him last week do something insane, and then he just comes out this week and I'll do that, and you're like, what is going on? Like, I think he sold his soul or something for the things that he's doing right now. But overall, I loved it. They gave it time, and they have me paying attention. You said it. I paid attention during the picture-in-picture, which is something that I rarely ever do, because the match was just nonstop, and it has something for everybody. Technical, hardcore, hard hitting, like you said. 5 stars. I loved it.
Yeah, and to your point, he is drinking from the fountain of youth, and it's crazy to think this is a guy that
I know.
5 years ago was told you're never going to wrestle again, or you shouldn't wrestle again. 6 years ago, whatever it was.
Hear me out. Maybe he's getting those years back.
He's doing something. Yeah, I mean, I think obviously we know he lives like an uber healthy lifestyle. I think that probably helps things.
I would
Listen,
say,
let me stick to my brujeria voodoo theories. They're much more fun.
No, well, it's pretty straightforward. He watched the generations before him of guys who were very talented, but they rode hard and were put away wet, and it did not serve them good in the long game.
It also has nothing to do with incense and candles. So we'll look at that.
So post-match, we get a MJF promo on the big screen, and he basically says that, Bryan, you've been dealing with masked Max, and watch out, because even if you're a dragon, no dragon is a match for the monster behind my mask. So Jimmy, what? And then a few bits later, we would find out that Brian Cage is going to take on Bryan Danielson next week.
Right.
MJF approaches Brian Cage, throws some money at him, slaps him to get him all riled up and to get some hate motivating him, and says, "This money's for you. I don't care if it's a win, loss, or whatever. Break his arm." Well, what do you make of MJF, who's going to start removing a mask and going to a different place?
Well, that's what heels do. They tell you stories like that, and they make you go, "Oh, come on, man. You're not that monster you think you are." But they believe that they are this monster. And MJF is doing it right. He's getting people to go, "Come on, man." And then you see him later hand that envelope of cash and also saying, "This is more cash than you've ever seen in your life."
So he gave him a good $40. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and then actually slapped Brian Cage to I guess to motivate him to get him all riled up for next week. Could have waited a week, because by next week maybe he's let it sink in enough where he wants to go after MJF.
Issa, so again, we're gonna see Brian Cage versus Bryan Danielson. Again, there's no mystery about who's going to win this. Bryan has to win to keep. Bryan Danielson has to win to keep on the path for MJF. So I guess now the voyeuristic attraction is to see how much punishment does Danielson have to take. Are you hooked for this match then next week? Because Brian Cage doesn't rack up a lot of W's on matches that matter. He just hasn't. Well,
Brian did lose quite a few matches in the beginning of his run with AEW, but they weren't poorly booked. He was just taking a lot of L's for a little bit. There was a lot of contradiction from MJF here. Maybe it's because I'm a big MJF fan, but he called himself a monster, and I think you downgraded from the devil to a monster. I think calling yourself the devil is more intimidating than calling yourself a monster. I didn't like him
Agreed.
approaching Brian Cage, because the first thing that I thought watching him approach Brian Cage with the money is like, you had a monster, you mess all of that up, you have Wardlow. So there was a lot of things that today took me back to what MJF has been giving us up until this point, and I just had to call out. That's what I got out of this promo. I feel like he downgraded, and he's trying to find a different monster now.
I hadn't even thought of the devil to the monster thing, but I think that's a great call if we want to get literal about things.
Right?
the devil's supposed to be the ultimate monster.
Right.
Another thing I'll call out with is, if we're going to do this, is I couldn't help but they've decided to use now Cage he's with the Prince Nana, and Prince Nana's gimmick is he's like rich African royalty or whatever, and it's like, so you walk up and say this is more money than you guys have ever seen. Totally kills the rich African dudes.
Right.
Gimmick.
Good point. I didn't even think about that.
Unless he's trying to say that he's more rich than an African prince. I don't know. Whatever the heck he's trying to. Yeah. But it's interesting. Something just struck me. You give somebody the pencil, you know what I mean? And going into this match next week, what if it were, where Brian Cage goes out to hurt him, and in the attempt to hurt Daniel Bryan gets disqualified, causing that pain, and MJF comes out and says, hey, you lost the match, he won the match. He says, yeah, but I did damage. You wanted damage, you got damage.
Well, and MJF even said,
I was gonna say he should say, I already got the money, so why would I hurt him anyways? He should have paid him after.
And MJF even said, I don't care about wins or losses. He just said break his arms. So like that would be the DQ thing. The DQ thing is fine, except Jimmy, like depending on how they do it and what's around it on the show, we'll be screaming, "Oh, that was a DQ," but this over here wasn't a DQ earlier. So that's
right.
Of course. Well, they did tease a count out tonight too. So, anyways, never mind.
Yeah, I'll throw one else out there as we fantasy book here. So MJF talking about a monster, and you start wondering like, what else is he going to throw at Bryan Danielson? Is this been part of the plan the whole time, or they'll try to spin it as such that if they didn't capitalize on Wardlow as the babyface, Wardlow's not been seen right now? Do you leave him away? His absence, let the people forget about it? Does Wardlow resurface and is maybe back with MJF at one point? And I mean, if you're not going to make Wardlow your top, if you're not going to run with him as a babyface, like, is that something that they could entertain?
I guess it is. Sorry to cut you off there, Issa. It looked like you were. But at the end of the day, the only way to salvage Wardlow is not to turn him heel, but to eventually have him get his revenge on MJF while MJF is still champion.
Right.
That's in my opinion. Otherwise, turning him heel looks like a move where, we kind of screwed up on trying to make him a big time babyface, so we're just going to make him heel. Yeah. That's how it would feel to me.
I'm still so frustrated with the way they booked Wardlow, his TNT title run, and the fact that the last time we saw him on television, he was getting his hair cut, and we haven't seen him ever since. Like the whole thing. Hopefully, when he does come back, he's gonna look good, but I'm gonna miss the hair. But I hope that they put him in something. Sorry, Jimmy. They put him on something significant. I just want to see him on a big storyline and gain some of his momentum back. But absence does make the heart grow fonder, and not seeing him might cause those pops to start coming back, because the pops went away towards the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll be real curious. Talk about booking to indie fans and this and that. How they book a 60-minute Iron Man match between Danielson and MJF.
You got two guys that could take their time and tell a story. So I'm not worried that they can get a good match out there. It's just whether this crowd is going to be into the storytelling, time-consuming, letting things develop and mature in the match. Will they be into that, or do they want to see this fireworks display?
Well, the problem that it's not even a problem, but I've never thought, and MJF is my favorite in AEW, no cap there. I never thought, I can't wait to see MJF in an Iron Man match. The man that has to come out of this match looking the best is MJF. Like, he's gonna have to work, because we've seen Bryan in 60 minutes matches with Adam Page. That match with Omega was absolutely incredible. They both came to no contest because they went to the time limit. we know what Brian can do on a 60-minute time limit. So the one that's going to have to work very hard here is going to be MJF. And I don't want to see a lot. I see your point. Take your time and tell the story, but I don't want to see a lot of the drawing for the time or like wasting time. So I am very curious about it, but I can tell you that's not a stipulation. That was not top 5 stipulations I wanted to see MJF be a part of.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see. We still got obviously a ways to go. We got a month and a half until we're gonna get there, but we'll keep our eye on that. But we'll talk next week about Brian Cage versus Bryan Danielson, if there's any arm breaking, if Brian Cage truly did earn his money or not. All right, we got Tony Storm. Oh, it's 9:30. It's time for Tony Storm versus Willow Nightingale. Prior to that, backstage, we saw Tony Storm, Saraya, and Hikaru Shida. They really just kind of just shunning Shida out.
I found that so disrespectful, and I gotta tell you, I'm glad that at the end we teased that Saraya heel turn, because I'm like, they have not done anything to make her likable since she came back. So just make her heel already. When she talked to Shida that way, I was like, this is the longest reigning AEW World's Women Champ. Like, have a little bit of respect. So I didn't like this backstage segment.
Yeah, she's shunning Shida, and her and Storm are talking about how these AEW homegrowns, they don't know, they haven't been where we've been and done what we've done. And so we get the match. Tony wins with a roll up, and after the match, Saraya is attacking after the bell. Shida's out there kind of in the middle thing, kind of caught in the middle. Ruby runs off Tony Storm and Saraya. So Issa, Saraya comes over, formerly known as Paige, coming back. She's back in the ring. She's had a match. Your thoughts on the decision to book her as a heel? Do you think that was the plan when Tony Khan first signed her, or has there just been some kind of just general reaction to her? Because even last week, Britt Baker and company came off more popular with the audience than Saraya.
Because that's what happened it's the leftovers of the Saraya and Britt Baker feud. They made Saraya come after the face and the person that built AEW, and during that feud, I thought that Britt Baker was more sympathetic and more likable than what Saraya was doing, and she's the big comeback that people were waiting for. So I don't know whether it was planned or not, but I don't know that she's come off as likable throughout the entire booking. So I do think finally going through with turning her heel is the right decision to make, because I can't get behind some of the things that she's saying and take some shots at the AEW homegrown. If they're so bad, then why are you in AEW? Take a different opportunity, right? That's the way that you see it. It feels like we're building Willow Nightingale for something here. We've seen her take a lot. She's had a lot of TV time recently. Her and Ruby Soho killed that Friday on that street fight. So I was happy to see them both again on TV. They followed up on something from Rampage, which again, counterproductive because people don't watch Rampage, but they did show it. So I'm excited to see what they're building up with them. And I'm glad that they finally just did the heel turn, because I just didn't think she was coming off as a likable character.
Jimmy, are you a fan and support of Saraya being booked as a heel?
I guess. There was really, I wasn't invested in this match. Yes, I get coming off of Friday's Rampage and all the talk about the match that the women had there. They really left it all out there. Let's put it that way. And that's cool. But at the same time, I just didn't feel invested here because, again, it's the timing as well.
Yeah.
If you want people to get invested in this match, maybe this match could have started off the show. Maybe this match could have started off the hour, the changeover to the second hour. It was put in the same spot where it just felt, okay, it's time for the women's match. Here it is, the match before the main event, whether it's 9:25, 9:30, 9:35. It just felt like this is the time for the women's match.
Jimmy, the day the women open Dynamite, we're going to do a toast. We're going to take a shot of something when we go on the air, if that ever happens.
Hey, I have a single barrel malt Jack Daniels. I'll open it up for that.
Jimmy, I was getting ready to ask, because I've never shared a drink with you. You and I've never. And I was going to ask, if you're taking a shot, what is it? And then I was going to say, I'm going to guess based upon your time in the business, that you had to be prepared to take a shot of Jack Daniels if given to you by certain people, because you don't turn them down.
Yeah, absolutely, you don't turn it down. And
you were right on the money on that one, LaBar.
Yeah, and I have, like I said, the single barrel one, and I've also got the regular Jack. So hey,
we're ready to go when it happens. We just need it to happen. What are you drinking, LaBar?
I'll shoot. I'll shoot whatever's given to me. The first time I ever took a shot with Luke Gallows, it was Jack, and he gargled it, and I said, "What is that all about?" And he's like, "You gotta learn." He's like, this is a guy who, worked a lot with Taker at a certain point, and he's like, you gotta know how to handle your Jack. You gotta be able to do it.
Oh my God, I saw him when he did the one Dead Man show, and I got to attend it, and he just like sitting there talking for like 2 hours, just taking shots of Jack like he's nothing, and I'm like, props to you. I can do that with Bacardi. Give me any rum, and I can do that. But Jack Daniels, I can't.
Yeah, it's the drink of choice in wrestlers' court as well too. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Joseph Boza had a funny super chat earlier. He goes, if fans didn't want Dr. Britt to be champ, Saraya would still be face. I think there's something to that. I think for all the additions and all the things that they're trying to do to the women's division in AEW, Britt, who is the homegrown, I know she's homegrown by that definition. I take offense to it because she's homegrown here in Pittsburgh with us, but I get the term. She's homegrown to the AEW audience as being there as an original. She's such a polarizing character. In my mind, people want her, and they have accepted the Jade Cargill project, and it's like that's your thing eventually. Whenever you feel Jade is ready for it, but I do agree. Britt kind of puts she's a little bit of an obstacle to everybody else because it's like you're trying to make them choose Saraya over her, and people are like, no, it's Britt.
Yeah, especially when you have Saraya come in and try to tell Britt Baker that her experience in the wrestling business doesn't equal to her because she's been through different times and transitions, and it's like it doesn't take away from whatever experience Britt has to get to where she is. And I didn't like the way that I felt like it was disrespectful towards Britt's journey, and I don't think that. I'm like, how do you not respect a woman who got a college degree, she's a freaking doctor, she's a dentist, and she wrestles just because she don't need it, she has a career. Like, there's so much respect, and I wish maybe she would have gone into the respect. I'm here, and I want to prove myself against the best AEW has to offer. That would have been a face on face, and you could have done it.
Yeah. 2 college degrees and was doing a whole lot of training as well. She's getting that second one. It was pretty crazy.
Oh, I got her by 1.
There you go.
I got 3 degrees. Thank you very much.
3.
3.
3.
I didn't know you had 3.
I do.
Tremendous.
What are they in?
Business management, tourism, and computer science.
Oh,
wow. That's impressive.
There's a 3 count. I'll tell you that.
There's
Hey, I'm gonna clip that.
There you go.
That's impressive. Jimmy, to the roll-up finish, Daniel Price earlier. Because Korderas is like, if I see one more damn roll-up, I'm going to give someone a stern lecture.
There you go.
We're getting a reffing rant. A roll-up reffing rant edition, the triple R.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. See, do they not communicate with each other? Like somebody gets a sheet where what the finishes are. So who's looking this over?
I think that I truly I don't know. I truly, again, it goes back to earlier when I questioned the okay, we're gonna have the Bucks lose. Does Tony communicate? Hey, let's sell the fact that they're exhausted from the best of 7. I don't know. He might just say so and so goes over, and whether he says you go over definitively or you go over after a hard fought 20 minutes, he might not even assign the finish. That might be getting done by the boys and girls, which then, of course, throws everything for a loop because, yeah, you're right, Jimmy. You don't have anybody then.
Agent or producer for the matches don't get together and say, hey, anybody doing a roll-up, anybody doing a DDT, anybody? Well, not that a DDT is a finish anymore, but you know what I'm saying.
I don't know. I like to think that there would be, but I don't know. All right, main event time. TNT champion Darby Allin defending the title in an open challenge to Kushida. Of course, Kushida currently with New Japan, did a stint in NXT, so you might recognize him there if you're just an American wrestling fan. Ultimately, though, Darby is going to win with an armbar pin.
I love this.
I have some thoughts. I'll save it to after you guys. Issa, you start. The pin was different. It's not something you see. We talked about how the redundancy of the roll-up. Don't see an armbar high leverage pin a lot. Tell me about it.
I like the pin a lot. And like you said, it was different. We're so used to seeing Darby do, his coffin drop onto a 1-2-3 match over. I felt this was different, and it caught my attention right away because I was like, wow, he won the match with that. And it was a cool reversal. There was a lot of cool reversals tonight throughout a lot of the matches. When you give criticism, you're supposed to start with the good. So I think it's awesome that Darby is doing something for the TNT title. It's felt so irrelevant for so long that to see him defending it here in every show, I think it's great. Okay, that's about it. The match was good. The match was good. I just don't feel invested in this. First of all, they're open challenges, but they're announced ahead of time, so it doesn't feel like an open challenge, and it just feels like the same main event like 4 times in a row. Like I feel like we just keep getting Darby in every main event, and there's nothing wrong with that. You're trying to build up to the TNT title, but you could have moved him around in the card just so every show doesn't feel the same way. Also, do you guys really think he weighs 175 pounds? Because I say 130 max.
Yeah.
Oh, Darby's not 175.
That's what they
way.
announced him as. That's what they announced him as.
I get that in wrestling they fudge the numbers a little bit,
right?
That's a lot of fudge.
You want to hear something funny? Somebody in my chat tonight said that he weighs. I think they said that he weighs 125, and the extra 50 pounds is from the weight of the depressing society that he carries on his shoulders. It was my favorite comment of the night.
But I will tell you this, that if they did announce him, let's say at 150, I would be more impressed that a guy 150 could hang like that. And I do like the fact that the announcers did put over the fact that he does have an amateur wrestling background, which led to what he was doing in the match. And the match was good in telling a story. They worked the arm, but there were times where Kushida went away from the arm and then had to go back to it. I wish as much as the arm was a story in this match, I wish it was more of a story in this match, and it would have made the comeback feel a little better for me anyway.
And Jimmy, to that point, the comment we just threw up on the screen here from night one saying Kushida kept Darby grounded more than I expected, but he had a solid plan. I do like when Darby displays his mat skills when he has to. So, and that's and that is important, not only in that story of the match, but I've said in the past too, we see Darby do some insane high spot stunts, and I say those run your career very on a thin, narrow line. And so I think it's good that he has something else that he could do to tell a story and get through a night and pick up a paycheck that doesn't involve him. And
we're seeing Brian do this, where he's throwing different kinds of strategies depending on what opponent he has. I like seeing that from Darby because I'm used to that. I'm used to, here comes Darby, crazy spot, 1, 2, 3, it's over. So you don't remember that he has an amateur wrestling background, and when he busts out these moves, it just looks better. I thought he was selling the arm very great as well.
I love that the announcers called it a highly technical cover at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, commentary really for a win tonight with a lot of
good commentary.
aid the things.
Yeah.
So a lot positive to talk about there with the main event. I guess my one thing, it's just my thing I'll throw out here that I remember I couldn't help but sit here and think about is that I understand that there's a working relationship with New Japan. I understand, and who knows where the tab's at. Meaning, who knows? Okay, Tony Khan let Omega go to Wrestle Kingdom, so he has to put a New Japan guy in the main event of Dynamite. I don't know where the tab's at, so I'm openly saying I don't know where the tab is at of what Tony has to fulfill. That aside, just from the theory of the whole concept, the whole Forbidden Door concept, I can't help but sit there and think to myself, you have this huge roster, and it's a story. It's not just a story amongst analysts and pundits like us. Hell, wrestlers even make little snide comments on social about this. You have this huge roster that is fighting for airtime. You have some really amazing talents that don't even make it on. Where's Miro? You have these talents that don't even make it to TV, and you're occupying a main event spot to somebody who's not even one of yours. It's just a loan, just a rental for a night or for a week or whatever the case. So I can't help but think like
it's a rental for a night.
It's a bold strategy. Are you making another sexual reference? Rental for a night?
No. I've rented I rented dresses before, and I think that's funny.
No, but
that's what you made me think about, like those dresses that you rented only wear once and send them back.
The rent the runway deal. There you go.
Yeah.
But as far as what you just said there, Justin, that just goes to because their logic is our audience, our core audience, the ones we are playing to, know Kushida, and they're, that's the audience they're booking towards, and they're not thinking outside the box and outside that bubble. And I think that's one of the things they have to start thinking about, is thinking outside that box or outside that bubble.
Yeah. It's just a bold strategy that, like, just what are those guys and girls that aren't being used thinking? Well, it's like, I'm under contract with you, and yeah, they're getting paid, so they can only complain, I guess, so much. They are getting, a guaranteed check every 2 weeks, but it's like, you're opting not this investment. You're tied to the, and Tony Khan also, Tony Khan's been a man of the terms of agreements, meaning he doesn't just cut people whenever he wants, like WWE has. If you have a 3-year deal, even if he's done using you and you have 6 months left in your deal, he's allowed your deal to run its course, and he's continued to pay. There's some questions business wise, is it whatever, but it is a stand up kind of move to do, and I give him props for that. So it's like, you have these talents who you're paying any which way already, and you're occupying a valuable main event spot to somebody else who you don't have that investment in financially. That was one thing I had to note that I wanted to bring up, but like I said, don't know the tab.
Very good, and very valid point. That's for sure. And if you want to talk about talent that they have that isn't being used on the striped shirt side, why haven't I not seen Mike Posey referee a match on Dynamite? I only see him come out to do the pull aparts. Mike Posey is a decent enough referee. Yeah, why isn't he not doing television matches? I'm sure, is he on Rampage? He's on Dark. But he's not on Dynamite. I don't get it.
Can I? I wondered this, Jimmy. And same can be said away. Kyoto had like a little cameo reffing for AEW for a minute.
And Brian Hebner.
And Brian Hebner. And put it this way, I know these guys. Obviously, cheap plug. Jimmy's doing a podcast right now with Brian Hebner, and also you don't have to. You can take the fifth and not answer this if you don't want, because I don't want to whatever. But it makes me wonder: are some of these veteran refs who have been around the block? Roman agrees. And some of these veteran refs who've been around the block and who are brought in for a little usage, a little rub, so to speak, in AEW. Are they like questioning and trying to point out, hey, from an official standpoint, this doesn't quite really make a lot of sense. Let's tighten some things up here, blah, blah, blah. And is that not being responded? Is the boss not being real receptive to that? And is he just kind of?
It could.
That's part of what I wonder.
No, I get what you're saying, and I wonder the same thing. And I can't speak for the boss, but I know when he was questioned about the refereeing situation in AEW on Busted Open by Bubba / Bully Ray.
Yeah,
that didn't go very well at all. And he said, "Well, our audience doesn't care about that." How could you come on?
Yeah.
That's not the response. Anyways, it didn't sit.
Yeah,
well.
your audience is not going to grow.
Right.
That's the.
And don't get me wrong. I as much as I value having good referees in the ring, it's not about the referees. The referees help the talent tell their story, as I say all the time. You're a piece to that puzzle, but you are not a focal point. You are not a distraction unless you're meant to be in whatever the story is being told.
Well, and the ridiculousness to it of that response that he gave of our audience doesn't care. It's like, you're in the business of storytelling. Good guy versus bad guy.
Yep.
Bad. You need to have good bad guys. Every good thing. You got to have good bad guys. There's no. It's extremely hard to have bad guys if there's no rules to break. If there's no punishment for a crime, what makes a murderer a bad guy in a movie? Like, it's just when you go to the very basics of it, it's just it's an asinine approach.
Right. Yeah, he doesn't take criticism very well, from my understanding.
Yeah, Ethan Cruz, maybe the tweet of the night, or comment of the night rather. Miro has had more appearances on Total Divas than AEW.
Oh wow!
Somebody tally it up.
I think that speaks volumes right there.
Somebody tally it up. Let's get the stats. All right, that is AEW Dynamite tonight from Fresno, California, and AEW does, of course, go off the air on commentary, just giving, again, condolences, and thoughts, and prayers.
Yes.
To Jay Briscoe and family. Many of the we did not mention that many of the talent tonight had black armbands with his name on it, paying tribute. So, and as we alluded to at one point in this show, in the tag team match between Top Flight and Young Bucks, there were some Briscoe brothers spots thrown in there. So, not to end on a down note, but again, just to acknowledge that was, of course, very much recognized tonight in paying tribute to what has just been a tragic moment in the pro wrestling community in the last 24 hours.
Yes.
All that said, though, thanks to everybody who's been here with us tonight in the live chat. Again, thank you if you're checking us out after the fact. Again, I push it. Leave a comment. Leave a nice review. Maybe we will start leaving. Maybe we'll start reading reviews on the air. I don't know.
Ooh, cool.
Tweet us.
Be great.
Yeah.
Let us know where in the world you are. How are you enjoying this podcast? Do you listen live? Do you listen to the archive? Are you cooking? Are you cleaning? Are you driving? Are you ignoring your boss? Are you ignoring your teacher? Are you ignoring your spouse? What are you doing? How do we get you through your day? Would love to know. Issa, give me the cheap plug. Where can people find you right now?
Everywhere. I'm trying to take over the world easily. Lucha Libre Online. I'm here on Wrestling Inc. on Tuesday, Wednesdays, Fridays, my own YouTube, NYC Demon Diva. Also, I'm doing a new podcast called TLR on Know Your News. That's on Tuesdays. And that's it. That's it for now.
Cool.
Oh, and Yellow Jackets Buzz with Glenn Rubenstein. Don't forget.
Give me the deal. What's this deal on Know Your News? That sounds fun.
Oh, that's actually, we just talk about pop culture. It's one of the few things that I do where I'm not talking wrestling at all. It always ends up coming back, but it's fun to sit there and talk about the big news going on in the world of pop culture. That's on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. on Know Your News.
Oh, very fun. Very fun. Jimmy, give the plugs.
All the social media platforms. I'm here on Monday nights and Wednesday nights. And, you can catch me on my social media platforms on all of them, doing my ref and rant from Monday to Friday and just having a little fun with that. And also now I'm doing the Reffing It Up podcast with Brian Hebner and RJ, and we're having a little fun. And this week's topic is Matt Hardy. And we had John, his co-host, John Alba, on with us, who's a Matt Hardy historian. You want to know anything about Matt?
John Alba's great. He's great.
Yeah.
Got great hair too, if I'm jealous.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
I've always told John I wish I had his hair.
Yeah. No kidding.
Very good. Well, thank you to everybody. Of course, you can find me at Justin LaBar across the social medias, Monday night, Wednesday night, every week here on the Wrestling Inc. podcast. Myself, Jimmy, and Jack will be live after the Royal Rumble, so that'll be a big one to circle.
I wish I could join you, but I'm gonna be there. Sorry.
Maybe you can do a little maybe we'll give you a little countdown, Rumble style. You can do a little run in.
Send me the link. Send me the link. You have to wait till I go outside of the Almadon because the signal in that building is the worst.
I have experience on that one.
Yep.
For sure. For Wrestling Inc. podcast on Monday and Wednesday, again, big pay-per-view at the end of the month, premium live event. Circle the calendar there. Friday morning, Spar with LaBar, myself on Busted Open, Sirius XM channel 156. Don't miss that. It's always fun and good times. Myself, Dave LaGreca, Thunder Rosa, Tommy Dreamer, whoever the hell might be on. I spar with them all. Again, like, subscribe, leave the comment, do what you got to do. Tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. We appreciate it. Let's stick together. Let's not just let tragedy bring us all together. Let's stick together. Let's be a little kinder, be a little bit more appreciative of what we have, of ourselves, and of each other. That is my Mr. Rogers bit of advice and request to all of you. Be safe, be good. We will talk to you next time. Have a good night.